And welcome back, everyone, to Who Would Win. Today's official Who Would Win, among the other two, which after I did Sundays, comes to us from Anthony Marcello. What's the question? Who wins in a fight? King Kong versus Dracula? Because why the F not? Why the F not? Now, surprisingly, there is a fight that can be had here. Because, I mean, it looks like you have to look at the versions of King Kong we have. We don't have that many. We got the standard King Kong, was the smallest of the group, a big ape, but nothing special. Got the remake one in the 70s, which is bigger, but also faker. Then you got, I think, Son of Kong, which was a different one entirely as well. Then I think there was also a Robo Kong, or Mecha Kong. But then you have the Peter Jackson one, which is actually the smallest one. I take it back, the smallest one of the group, but the most realistic in terms of, like, giant apes. And then you have obviously the MonsterVerse version of Kong, which currently is a giant, almost Godzilla-sized kaiju, who's nearly 400 feet tall, highly intelligent. Where's the power glove? By the way, I've heard tell that was made from Mechagodzilla. I have never heard that. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I've never heard that. And he also wields his giant, Godzilla dorsal fin axe, which is extremely powerful. So he's extremely large and powerful. So it's not about whether or not he can beat Dracula. It's actually about whether or not there are some versions of Dracula that can beat him. And there are many different variations on Dracula. Unfortunately, most of them do lose. Just on the sheer power aspect of it. Like sheer size. Don't get me wrong, Dracula being supernatural adds a different flair to the fight, absolutely. Being able to turn into bats, shapeshift, mind control. Unfortunately, I don't know if he can, like standard Bela Lugosi Dracula would be able to mind control King Kong. I don't personally see that happening. Because he can't look into his eyes. I mean, unless he's at a fair distance away. Beyond that, if we're just looking at the standard interpretation of Dracula like Bela Lugosi, basically any Dracula that doesn't have any further enhancements beyond the standard version of Dracula. So Bela Lugosi's, Christopher Lee's, Gerard Butler's. Because remember he played Dracula too. The Last Voyage of the Demeter one. Like anything, Bram Stoker, like anything that's just a standard blood type of vampire. He maybe tries to bite Kong and drink his blood, but I don't know if he'd want to do that because technically Kong does have radiation in him. Like, I mean, Godzilla is more radioactive by far than Kong is, but I do believe Kong is able to process and be able to handle radiation to some degree. So that would probably not be a very good. We saw that I think in one of the Marvel Avenger episodes, where Dracula tried to bite the Hulk, and because the gamma acted like sunlight, it burned from the inside. I don't know if it would do the same here, but still, he probably wouldn't want to try to feed on Kong. Unfortunately, any standard version of Dracula just doesn't have the abilities to do anything. Even with enhanced strength, he's nothing compared to Kong. Like, he really is just a man he's really just a man-sized monster who's slightly enhanced. So there's no standard version of Dracula that I think would win. Granted, Kong would be fighting him at night, and I mean, he can, I guess, survive shots from Kong. But I mean, we only know of the stake through the heart to kill him. Which, to be fair, as Adam Sandler's put it? Yeah, who wouldn't I kill? But seriously, like we've never seen a Dracula basically just try to be crushed. And just destroyed and pummeled, which Kong would do. And if his axe is active, I imagine that radiation would probably react bad with him too. So I don't know, maybe that would work. I'm not against the idea of him just being able to be crushed into nothing. If nothing else, he wouldn't be getting back up for some time. So Dracula still loses that fight. But there are more powerful versions of Dracula out there. There's the Marvel version of Dracula. There's Castlevania Dracula. Alucard is Dracula from Hellsing. So these are different variations of Dracula that we can look at to kind of... So let's look at Van Helsing, which is a stronger variation of Dracula, because he does have that transformation. There is Blade Trinity Dracula, who is stronger because he can actually survive in the sunlight. There is Alucard himself from Hellsing. There is Dracula from Castlevania. And there are other Draculas as well, like Marvel does have its own Dracula, but the level of power that Dracula has is all over. I'm not very well versed on that particular Dracula, to be fair. But yeah, those would be your 4 Draculas we can look at. So let's look at the 2 weaker ones. Let's look at the Van Helsing Dracula first, who could only be killed by the bite of a werewolf. Would he fare better against Kong? In theory, yes, he actually has flight. He actually has enhanced physiology beyond even like the standard Draculas. And sure, he could bite and feed on him. Would he turn him, Kong, into a vampire? I doubt it, but he could still bite him and hurt him. But unfortunately, he just does not have the physical strength to overwhelm Kong. After a while, Kong would just get annoyed and just either smack him with his blade or just grab him, just boom, boom, smash him into basically nothing. Now, granted, this Dracula has a very prominent healing factor, a healing factor we're very aware of. We see it. He literally gets thrown into a burning fire, and his flesh just comes right back. So, unlike, say, all the other Draculas, who probably could recover, but it would take some time, this Dracula could recover pretty quick. But he still seems to be weak to sunlight. So, really, this would just be a battle of attrition until sunlight. So, ultimately, I think Kong wins that fight. What about the Dracula Blade Trinity version? That one is immune to sunlight, and he also has an enhanced transformation form that is spiky, so Kong wouldn't be able to just bite him or hold him that much. But the vampire, we know vampirism is a virus in that version, and him biting people would just transfer the virus if he needs to. So he could, in fact, turn Kong, I think, assuming that Kong's DNA is compatible. That's a very key thing here. Again, though, physically, he's not going to be a match for Kong, physically. And he doesn't have a good answer to any weapon that Kong has. Like, the vampires in Blade's world are not nowhere near as immortal as other worlds. And I would include that Dracula. Like, that Dracula, in theory, could have still been taken down with a stake to the heart or something like that. He's immune to all their base weaknesses, but if you decapitated him, you staked him, that probably would have killed him. He was killed by a virus at the end of the day. So, I don't know. I think it's very possible you could kill him that way. That said, he would still be an annoyance. But that leaves us with our 2 strongest candidates when it comes to Draculas, Alucard and Dracula from Castlevania. Alucard is definitely one of the hardest might be the hardest one to straight out kill. Not because he can't die. Like, every time he's killed, he just comes back, he just replaces a soul. And Kong has no answer for that. He's got no freaking answer for killing Alucard. Not one. The other ones you could still make an argument for. We know you could kill probably the other ones, like the weaker versions. Just slice them up, cut them up, chop their heart up, whatever. Crush them. And the only one beyond that that's more difficult to kill than Alucard might be the Van Helsing one. But yeah, Alucard's regeneration is just so nuts that no matter how many times Kong pounds him, he's going to come back, because there's no way he kills him 2 million to 3 million times. I think I got a piece of hair like from the dog in my throat. Anywho, so that now Alucard would be able to move through shadow, shoot him. But the problem for Alucard is he also doesn't have a real clear-cut way of killing him. Like, his bullets, his guns are nothing to Kong. Like, little pea shooters. Do. It's like, ow, that hurt. Even if it releases the Hound of the basketball there's Kong. You see the size of that picture? That would be the size of the Hound, basically. My fist, as shown here, would be the size of the Hound compared to Kong. The Hound is huge, but not compared to Kong. So that best just grabs it and does that. Even release restraint level 0 is not very good against Kong because it does expose Alucard. Now, the one upside to that, though, is he could swarm Kong's body, but Kong can literally just swat so many of them away that it's kind of irrelevant. So really, yeah, Alucard, while he's arguably the hardest to kill, quite frankly, also has probably the least effective moves against Kong. So, as we can kind of see here, Kong actually does beat the majority of Draculas, which means I'm giving the win to Kong. But There is one version of Dracula that I don't think Kong beats, and that is the Castlevania version. Because not only does he still have all the abilities of a vampire, of Dracula no less, he also has the abilities of a sorcerer, and he is highly skilled magically. He can summon meteors. He can literally nuke individuals with holy magic and just be fine. He also has insane regenerative capabilities. And he might be the oldest version of Dracula. No, he's not the oldest version of Dracula. Technically speaking, I believe Blade Trinity's version of Dracula might be one of the oldest versions of Dracula because he was there at the crucifixion of Christ. He was there, like in Babylon. Like he was around for a long time, much longer than most other versions of Dracula. Even though Blade Trinity gets a bad rap, but some people don't like Dominic Purcell's interpretation of Dracula. I actually really did like that version of Dracula. This just ancient warrior who's been thrusted into the modern day, and I did like his transformation too. Like he is the perfect predator. He's the apex predator who never had to evolve. And it would make sense that he actually does have the form because of like how the Reaper was an advanced strain of the standard vampire line. He would have traits of the Reapers too. So ultimately, yeah. But that being said, because of everything that version of Dracula can throw at him, assuming the fight doesn't go to Dawn, I do think Kong can't beat that version of Dracula, sadly. So anyway, I would say that version could beat him because he's just so skillful in magic and and sorcery and technology that he actually would be able to overwhelm him. Plus, add on his vampire physiology. But Kong wins every other version. All right then, that's my thoughts though. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.